Picture your mind as a storm, swirling thoughts, fears, and doubts spinning out of control. Now imagine standing at the center of that storm, untouched, calm, clear. That's what the Buddha discovered. Not just enlightenment, but a way out of the storm of overthinking. We all know the feeling. Lying awake replaying conversations, worrying about the future, judging ourselves for the past. Overthinking is so common, we forget that peace is possible. But more than 2,500 years ago, the Buddha saw this pattern in the human mind. He saw that our suffering isn't caused by life itself, but by how tightly we hold on to our thoughts. In this video, we'll explore the Buddha's wisdom on overthinking, what he truly meant by letting go, how we can find stillness in everyday chaos, and why peace doesn't come from solving every problem, but from changing how we relate to our mind. Stay until the end, and you'll discover not just ancient teachings, but a map back to your own inner silence. 1. The nature of the mind. The Buddha once described the mind as restless, agitated, and hard to control. He compared it to a monkey, always jumping from branch to branch, never staying still. This description fits perfectly with the modern concept of overthinking. When our thoughts constantly shift, we cannot concentrate. We worry about what hasn't happened, relive what has, and imagine infinite scenarios that may never come to pass. The Buddha called this kind of mind a source of dukkha, suffering. He taught that our suffering doesn't come from the world itself, but from our reaction to it. And this reaction is shaped by the thoughts we entertain. The untrained mind becomes a factory of delusions, fears, desires, and expectations. Overthinking arises when we attach too strongly to thoughts. We believe every idea, fear, or possibility that crosses our mind. We think, if I don't keep thinking about this, something bad might happen, or I need to find the perfect answer before I act. But the Buddha taught that clinging to thoughts is like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you grip, the more it slips away. In meditation, the Buddha observed that the mind could be trained. He saw that behind all the chaos, there is a natural awareness, still, peaceful, and undisturbed. This realization was central to his enlightenment. To overcome overthinking, we must first understand that we're not our thoughts. They are like clouds passing through the sky. Some are light and gentle, others dark and stormy. But the sky, our awareness, remains untouched. 2. The Four Noble Truths and Overthinking. To truly understand what the Buddha might say about overthinking, we need to return to the very foundation of his teachings, the Four Noble Truths. These truths are not abstract philosophy. They are tools, practical insights designed to help us end suffering and cultivate inner peace. Let's explore how each truth directly relates to the problem of overthinking. 1. The truth of suffering, dukkha. Overthinking is, at its core, a form of dukkha, a Sanskrit word often translated as suffering, but which also means unease, stress, or dissatisfaction. When we overthink, we suffer twice. First, from the situation itself, and then from our thoughts about it. The mind loops through endless what-ifs and should-haves. It creates scenarios that haven't happened and may never happen, yet the body responds with real anxiety and tension. The Buddha taught that this mental agitation is a universal part of human life. Even in stillness, the untrained mind churns with restlessness. Overthinking might wear the mask of intelligence or responsibility, but underneath it is usually fear, control, or unresolved pain. 2. The origin of suffering. The second noble truth identifies the cause of our suffering: craving, clinging, and attachment. When we overthink, what exactly are we attached to? We may be attached to certainty, wanting to predict and control every outcome. We may be attached to identity, replaying past mistakes to reinforce a story about who we are. We may be attached to perfection, mentally editing conversations, decisions, and actions until they feel just right. The Buddha observed that this grasping, this inner tightness, is what turns natural thought into mental imprisonment. It's not the thinking itself that's the problem, but the way we cling to our thoughts and demand they bring us peace. In overthinking, we are often chasing clarity but getting confusion. The harder we try to mentally solve the situation, the more tangled the mind becomes. And this endless mental motion is a direct symptom of craving. 3. The cessation of suffering. But the Buddha didn't stop at identifying the problem. He offered hope, the third noble truth, that the end of suffering is possible. This includes the end of compulsive overthinking. How? By letting go. Not through force or suppression, but through understanding. When we see clearly that overthinking doesn't bring us peace, we begin to release our attachment to it. We recognize that thoughts are not truth. They are mental events, arising, passing, not self. When we stop feeding our thoughts with attention, they lose power. The mind doesn't need to be fixed. It needs to be freed. And in that freedom, silence becomes more natural than noise. The path to cessation, the Eightfold Path. The Buddha outlined a practical method for calming the mind and ending suffering, the Noble Eightfold Path. This isn't a checklist, but a way of life, a training of the heart and mind. Right view. Understand that thoughts are just thoughts. They are not facts. Much of overthinking is based on illusion, fears about the future, guilt about the past, assumptions about others. When we see their impermanence, we stop believing every thought we think. Right intention. Instead of fueling fear or control, we set intentions of renunciation, kindness, and peace. We learn to choose which thoughts to follow and which to let pass like clouds in the sky. Right speech, action, and livelihood. These are ethical practices that create harmony in our outer life, reducing the inner friction that fuels overthinking. When we live in integrity, the mind is naturally quieter. Right effort. We gently steer the mind away from destructive patterns and toward beneficial ones, not through force, but through practice. Right mindfulness. This is the key. We observe our thoughts without judgment, watching them come and go. This awareness creates space, and in that space, the compulsion to overthink softens. Right concentration. Through meditation, the scattered mind becomes steady. When we learn to focus the mind on a single object, like the breath, we weaken the habit of mental wandering. In this way, overthinking is not merely a psychological issue, it is a spiritual one. It arises from the same ignorance and craving that the Buddha saw as the root of all suffering. And just like any other form of suffering, it can be transformed, not by resisting it, but by meeting it with wisdom, presence, and compassion. When we walk the path the Buddha laid out, the mind doesn't just get quieter, it becomes free. 3. Mindfulness and present moment awareness. One of the Buddha's greatest teachings is sati, mindfulness. It is the practice of being fully present in the here and now. Overthinking thrives in the past and future. It replays old events, imagines worst-case scenarios, and builds castles in the air. But mindfulness brings us back to the only place life truly happens, this moment. When we are mindful, we become aware of our thoughts without getting caught in them. We see them arise, stay for a while, and pass away. Just as a fire burns only when fed, overthinking continues only when we fuel it with attention and belief. The Buddha said, "Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." This teaching, though simple, is revolutionary. In a world of distractions, learning to stay present is an act of liberation. In mindfulness meditation, we observe the breath. Why the breath? Because it is always now. Each inhale and exhale grounds us in the present. When overthinking arises during meditation, we don't fight it. We acknowledge it, thinking, and gently return to the breath. This process teaches the mind to loosen its grip on thoughts. Over time, the space between thoughts increases. The mind becomes less reactive and more peaceful. We no longer chase every idea or fear. We see them as temporary visitors, not truths. Mindfulness can be practiced outside of meditation too. Washing dishes, walking, eating, all become opportunities to anchor ourselves in the now. 4. Letting go. Letting go is at the heart of Buddhist practice. The Buddha didn't tell us to suppress thoughts or feelings. He taught us to release our attachment to them. Overthinking is a form of attachment. We grasp at understanding, control, and certainty. But life is uncertain. Trying to mentally solve everything is like trying to hold back the ocean with a broom. The Buddha said, "You only lose what you cling to." Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means surrendering the illusion that we can think our way out of suffering. So, how do we let go? 1. Awareness. The first step is simple but powerful. Recognize when overthinking is happening. You can't release what you're not aware of. Pause. Notice the mental noise. Acknowledge, I'm caught in thought. This awareness creates a gap, a space where freedom becomes possible. 2. Acceptance. Next, meet your overthinking with kindness. Don't criticize yourself or try to force the thoughts away. The Buddha emphasized compassion as the foundation of the spiritual path. Overthinking is not a personal failure, it's a human habit. Welcome your experience with a soft heart. 3. Release. Here's where the letting go begins. Imagine placing each thought on a leaf and watching it float down a gentle stream. Or label the thought softly. Worry, planning, fear, memory. This labeling helps you separate from identification. You are not the thought. You are the awareness, watching it arise and pass. 4. Return. Each time you release a thought, gently return to the present. Feel the breath. Notice the body. Hear the sounds around you. The present moment is always here, patiently waiting to receive you. Letting go is not a one-time act. It's a practice, repeated moment by moment. Some thoughts will return, and that's okay. What matters is your willingness to return again and again with patience and grace. Over time, this practice rewires the mind. You begin to trust the silence more than the noise. You stop needing every answer, every certainty. You realize peace was never at the end of a thought. It was here all along, just beneath the grasping. Letting go does not make life empty. It makes life spacious. And in that space, the mind finds what it was searching for all along: freedom. 5. A practical daily practice. Here's a simple daily routine to overcome overthinking using Buddhist principles. Morning, 5 to 10 minutes. Sit in silence. Focus on the breath. Set an intention. Today, I will observe my thoughts, not become them. Throughout the day, practice mindful pauses. Before reacting, take one breath. Label thoughts silently. Thinking, judging, fearing. Evening, 10 minutes. Reflect. Did I overthink today? When? Why? What can I release? End with a short, loving-kindness meditation. May I be peaceful. May I be free from mental suffering. 6. The role of compassion in healing the mind. Overthinking is rarely neutral. It often arrives with an inner storm, a cycle of judgment, worry, and self-blame. We criticize ourselves for thinking too much, for not being calm, for not having all the answers. And in doing so, we add an extra layer of suffering to an already restless mind. But the Buddha taught a different approach, one that begins not with control, but with compassion. He often spoke of metta, loving kindness, as a direct antidote to suffering. Just as a mother holds her child with warmth and care, we are invited to turn that same gentle attention inward. When we catch ourselves overthinking, the healing response is not, "What's wrong with me?" but, "It's okay, I'm here, I'm doing my best." This small shift makes a profound difference. In metta meditation, we repeat phrases like, "May I be happy. May I be safe. May I be free from mental suffering." At first, it may feel mechanical, but with time, these words begin to soften the harsh edges of the mind. We begin to notice the voice of inner criticism and respond not with more judgment, but with understanding. Compassion does not eliminate thoughts. It transforms our relationship with them. Instead of trying to fix, control, or banish what arises in the mind, we learn to hold it all with gentleness. We say, "Even this too belongs." And as our compassion deepens, it naturally extends outward. We begin to offer the same kindness to others, especially those who trigger our worry or frustration. Overthinking often revolves around imagined conversations, past conflicts, or fear of judgment. When we meet these thoughts with compassion toward ourselves and others, their power fades. Compassion brings space. It creates room for healing, for breathing, for release. It allows us to recognize that we are not broken, just human, that we are not alone in our mental battles. When the mind races, compassion is not weakness. It is the most courageous choice. Overthinking loses its grip not when we conquer it, but when we care for it. And in that caring, the mind begins to heal. 7. Detachment and the illusion of control. At the heart of overthinking lies a subtle but powerful craving, the desire for control. We overanalyze conversations, rehearse future scenarios, and replay past decisions, all in an effort to predict, prevent, or perfect what happens next. But the Buddha, with piercing clarity, saw through this illusion. He taught that the more we cling to control, the more we suffer. Why? Because life, by its very nature, is uncertain. Everything is subject to change: relationships, health, emotions, success, failure. The Buddha called this anicca, or impermanence, and yet the overthinking mind fights this truth. It believes, if I think enough, I can make things safe, certain, and solid. But this only leads to mental exhaustion. Instead of control, the Buddha offered something far more liberating: detachment. Now, detachment is often misunderstood. It doesn't mean apathy or cold indifference. It means freedom, the ability to engage with life fully without being consumed by the outcome. Detachment means we can care deeply, give our best effort, and still let go of the results. It's the mindset of the wise. I plant the seed, I water it, but I do not obsess over the harvest. When we're attached to a specific outcome, our mind tightens. Every uncertainty becomes a threat. But when we embrace detachment, we breathe. We accept that we do not control the waves of life, but we can learn to surf them with grace. In Buddhism, this is closely related to the practice of equanimity, a calm, balanced state of mind in the face of change. It is the quiet confidence that says, whatever comes, I will meet it with awareness. Think of your thoughts like tabs on a web browser. Overthinking opens dozens of tabs trying to solve problems in advance, but none of them load fully. Detachment is like clicking close all tabs and returning to the home page. This moment, or imagine holding a bird. Clinging too tightly will hurt it. Holding too loosely, it flies away. Detachment is the gentle hold, aware, caring, but not grasping. Overthinking loses its power when we realize we were never meant to control everything. We were meant to show up, be present, and trust the unfolding. Letting go of control is not weakness, it's wisdom, and in that wisdom, the mind finds peace. 8. Cultivating inner silence. Beyond all the teachings, all the philosophies, and all the techniques, there lies something even more profound, the stillness beneath the storm. This is not something the Buddha simply taught. It is something he realized through deep meditation and awakening. It is called inner silence. Inner silence is not the absence of sound, or even the complete absence of thought. It is the spacious awareness in which thoughts rise and fall, like waves on an ocean that never stirs. It is the calm center within the chaos, the unmoved witness within you that has always been there. The Buddha pointed to this silence again and again, not with loud proclamations, but with quiet presence. He taught that to access this silence, we must learn to stop chasing outcomes, chasing validation, chasing answers. Instead, we turn inward. Meditation is the gateway, not as a tool to silence thoughts by force, but as a practice of deep listening. We sit, we breathe, we notice. We return to this moment again and again, and slowly something opens. At first, the mind will resist. It will try to solve problems, build stories, or seek entertainment. That's natural. But if we remain still, if we remain patient, a shift occurs. We stop identifying with every passing thought and start recognizing the space between them. The Buddha described this space as nirvana, the extinguishing of the mental fires that drive suffering, craving, aversion, and delusion. In this silence, those fires lose their fuel. We find peace not by removing all thoughts, but by no longer clinging to them. This inner silence is healing. It brings clarity, balance, and deep rest. The more we sit in it, the more we realize our true nature is not the storm, but the sky behind it. In your everyday life, you can cultivate this silence even in small moments. A mindful breath, a pause before responding, a walk in nature without headphones. These are sacred doorways back to yourself. Remember, this silence isn't far away. It doesn't need to be created. It is already here, waiting, within you. Overthinking is not a modern curse. It is a timeless struggle of the human mind. But the Buddha, through his deep insight and compassion, gave us the tools to understand and overcome it. His teachings remind us that we are not our thoughts, that peace is possible, that freedom comes not from controlling everything, but from letting go. In a world that celebrates busy minds and constant thinking, choosing stillness is radical, choosing presence is powerful. So the next time your mind begins to race, pause. Remember the Buddha's words. Watch the thought without clinging to it. Breathe. Come back to this moment. You don't need to solve everything. You only need to wake up to what's happening right now, and in that wakefulness, peace will find you. Thank you for watching. If this video brought you clarity or calm, consider liking, sharing and subscribing for more Buddhist wisdom.